I have hit.
Because without that little lady telling us, we never know what's happening. So welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us for this commercial real estate, what we're aptly naming purchasing property that's perfect for your budding business. I'm excited to see you all on here. And again, I'm really excited for our panelists, and thank you, Felicia, for setting this up. I think it's a really great next step for the webinars we've been doing and the ones we've done last year to help you guys move into and transition into a bigger space or a new space or a leasing a space, whatever you need. That's why we're here to help you go through that. So I'm going to go through a brief introduction of what Empower is. I'm going to turn it over to Felicia, and then we'll go through the panelists and all of you. But just to give you a brief background on Empower, we are a 501c3, so a nonprofit that deals primarily for community-oriented education and providing resources for those in underfunded or minority areas. That's our main focus. Our main goal is to give information to help these commercial corridors and try to revitalize the neighborhoods where the people, we want them to invest back in their neighborhoods. So guiding them through mentorship, guiding through resources and webinars such as this is all we want to see. We believe that everybody should be on an equal playing field, and any way we can help you to get there is our primary goal and mission, which is why we're having this today, just to keep the flow going. I am going to mention a little bit about the SBAC, which is our sister organization. They're a 501c6, and we do advocacy there. So all that advocacy related there, and we work very closely with Felicia and the Greater Englewood Chamber. So a lot going on, revitalizing these commercial corridors, trying to reduce vacant properties, which would help you. And I think Felicia can talk a little bit more about that as well. But all those vacant properties that may be open and for you to purchase that business and move forward, that's what they do there. So just there's so much work we do with Felicia and these chambers that it would take me forever to go through there and all the advocacy and reducing that red tape for you all, that I don't want to bore you, and I'd rather get into the webinar. So with that, I will turn it over to Felicia, and she can talk a little bit about this webinar as well, and the Greater Englewood Chamber. And if I'm speaking too fast, which I was told this week I do, just tell me to slow down. Felicia, it's all for you.
Thank you, Patty. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this morning. This is our first chamber-related programmatic meeting of 2023. And so thank you all for joining us. I wanted to make sure that in 2023, we focused on what are the things that small business owners are really looking for? What is it that we're hearing consistently? We need to know more about how to finance, commercial properties and what should we be thinking about and preparing for. But we also need to really understand commercial real estate. How do we navigate all of the legal stuff that's pertaining to that? From, I found this space and I want to operate a cannabis space or some other kind of business. And is it properly zoned for that? What's the work I have to do for rezoning use? Who are the people I need to talk to in the community? Not just from a, talk to all of our elected officials perspective, but from the city and, do I need legal advice? Do I need an attorney? And what is the cost related to that? And so we wanted to make sure to touch on a few of those things today. We probably can't touch on all, but it's incentive for you to come back. But it's also incentive for you to connect to our panelists directly to help guide you through that process. And that's what this is going to be all about. So for those of us that are new to the chamber, we're the Greater Englewood Chamber and the Greater Englewood Chamber Foundation. Our focus is to advise, advocate. We do that in partnership with SBAC, and showcase the small businesses all throughout Englewood. We have done some new things in 2023. We have a new office space off 69th Street that we're excited about. We've onboarded a couple of new folks that you'll begin to meet over the next few weeks or so as we begin to do a lot more outreach. But most importantly, we wanted to make sure that you guys are also really aware of all of the different things that's happening within the chamber. So we want you to make sure that you are visiting our website, www.gechamber.com. Specifically, we're doing some things with a little more incentive behind them to support you in your growth and your expansion of your business. We have a great partnership with Verizon. And we have a special link that I'll put here in the chat that I want you to check out and go visit and sign up today. Utilize these services. They are absolutely free. The best part of this is that you also get to network with your peers within your industry. Find people from all across the United States that's doing similar work to you, that you're doing, and ask them, hey, how did you get over this hurdle? How are you, doing this? How's marketing? How's hiring? And they're able to talk to you. You guys can build some really interesting relationships with folks that are within the same industry. And I think that's really important to small business growth. I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to turn it back over to Patty. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. Visit us at www.gechamber.com. Most importantly, sign up for Verizon Small Business Digital Platform. It is the most amazing platform. I use it myself. Many of you know I'm a financial advisor by trade, and so I'm building some amazing relationships as well. I want you to do so. Have a great time doing this. As Patty said, ask as many questions as you need. When this is all over, you will get a copy of the video, get a copy of the transcript, and most importantly, be able to connect to our panelists so that you can talk individually about your own special needs with your business. Patty, back to you.
All right, thank you, Felicia. So let's go through the introduction of the panelists, and then after that, I will have each one of you introduce yourselves, your business, where you are in the process, and go from there. So in addition to the real estate, I should mention that it does go through the basics of access to capital for you as well. So, because that's always part of the process when you're going to purchase real estate, I think that comes in the title. So let's start with Stephen Ball. He's from Byline Bank. He can give you his title, everything. I think he put his information in the chat. Stephen.
I don't feel so bad. Terry did the same thing. I hit enter trying to get one line down in the chat, and I just sent everyone, like, you can see my name, right? Terry, you're laughing. You did, like, I want everything lined up.
Don't call me now.
I'm calling myself out. I lead by example. I lead from the front, Terry. All good, all good. I'm glad you're awake this morning too. Stephen Ball, Byline Bank. I'm the banker without a tie. I'm old. I've spent 30 years being a small business banker. I was giving Felicia my quick history. I'm a job hopper. I've written my resume twice in those 30 years. LaSalle Bank, 14 years. Bank of America bought me. They didn't think small business was big enough for them. I went to MB Financial to start business banking there for 12 years, spent 2 years with Fifth Third. Fifth Third bought me. I'm being full of myself. They bought the bank. They didn't buy me. They didn't even know I worked there when they bought it. And same thing. So then I moved to Byline Bank 2 years ago to start small business here. And really my focus is on startups up to the first few $1 million in revenues. I work with Goldman Sachs Small Business Initiatives. I work with the Small Business Advocacy Council fighting for small business. I work with the Coleman Entrepreneurial Center. Really any way I can give back to the small business community that's given so much to me, I'm happy to help. Unlike accountants and attorneys, sorry, Katrina, I don't charge hourly. So anything I can do for you advice, I don't think anyone's charging you hourly today. I'm here for. So feel free to use that email I threw in the chat, and I'm looking forward to talking to you all today.
I don't feel like I speak so quickly anymore. So
no, I speak right. Yeah, I'm rapid fire.
So I'll let Katerina rebuff. So Katerina's with Birchwood Law. And again, all these folks, the reason why I brought them on is because I think they're amazing, and they're people who are very relatable for you all. So Katerina.
Thank you, Patty. And Steve, we got to chat after this one. So my name is Katerina Carrick. I go by Kat, and I'm the founding attorney of a zoning and land use law firm called Birchwood Law. At Birchwood Law, we help business owners remove zoning roadblocks on commercial, residential, and industrial projects. And our goal is typically to streamline a commercial transaction when we're working with our business community. Although our primary work is within the realm of land use and zoning specifically, we also represent clients on commercial transactions. And I think our experience in zoning and land use really favors our clients during the due diligence process because we go above and beyond to identify and resolve potential issues. And just as a way of background, before I started my law firm, I spent a number of years as a municipal attorney, and I specifically handled properties that were vacant and abandoned in court. So I was part of the litigation team that handled that. And having that background and that experience, I think really kind of gives me a unique perspective on entrepreneurship and what we can do for our communities when we're working together to resolve these problems and put properties back into productive use.
Great, thank you, Katerina. And I would highly recommend if you guys have any zoning questions, Katerina will touch upon some of them today as well. But if you do, to visit our site, we do have an amazing webinar on there that discusses all zoning and issues. If you have any questions, it's in pretty great detail, and we did it with the Greater Englewood as well last year, but it's a really great webinar. So thank you, Katerina. And last but not least, Will, it's all you. Will is with, I'm going to say, I hope I say the name right, Duarte? No, Duarte?
Okay, yeah, you're good, you're good. Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. My name is Will Galarza. I go a few years back now with Patty and Stephen, which is pretty awesome that we've been able to know each other for so long. But my name is Will Galarza. I'm a realtor with the Duarte Realty Company in Berwyn, Illinois. The brokerage itself is fairly new. We were founded in May 2021. We actually started off with 4 agents, and since then we've grown to 45 agents. So we're definitely growing and very excited about helping and working with folks. I think what I'll kind of say is, you know, for me, I was born and raised in McKinley Park in Pilsen, went to school out of state for a few years, and then I've been back now in Chicago for the last 5 years. And I think in the same approach that the SBAC and Empower has with working with the community is the same way that I approach working with folks when it relates to real estate. I use the mechanic example in terms of how I work. You know, when you go to a mechanic and you take your car in and the mechanic says, I found this wrong, I found that wrong, I got to charge you an arm and leg for this, this is an issue. You know, you're kind of walking away from that experience like, oh, like I'm never going back there again, right? But if you go to someone and they're like, they meet you where you're at and they answer all your questions, they listen to what your concerns are, and they say, hey, I found this, I found that wrong, I fixed this, and I applied this discount, you're good to go. Let us know if you have any questions. You're walking away from that experience not only feeling like, one, I'm going to come back, but 2, I'm going to recommend that person to someone because they did me right. And that's the approach that I have of just working with people and meeting with them and making sure that they feel good about whether it be a residential or a commercial experience, that they feel good about it because it's a big decision. And I want to make sure that they feel happy and confident and empowered to move forward. So that's kind of just the way that I work in terms of working with folks when it relates to real estate. So excited to be here.
Thank you, Will. Thank you guys all. And now I want to go through, if you guys are okay, everybody on the call, to go through kind of where you are in your business, introduce yourself. What is your business? I know you stuck it in the chat, but just let everybody, especially the panelists, know where you are and kind of what you're thinking. It will help them guide you as they answer the questions that I have. And if you have any questions, we'll go from there. So I'm going to start in my box. It's in no particular order. So Chef Daryl, you are first on my list.
All right, I guess I knew I was gonna be first. How is everybody doing today? I'm Chef Daryl Fury. I've been a chef 33 years. I decided I wanted to give back to my community of Inglewood. I grew up in Inglewood. So I wanted to start a training program to teach people how to get jobs with Sodexo and Aramark and some of the companies that I've worked for as executive chef. I thought starting a training program would not be as difficult as this has been. I started right before the pandemic and have been trying to get started since then. So we're a restaurant training program. So we basically have the training program in the back, the restaurant in the front. I haven't gotten any trainees yet. I'm still working on that. But in the meantime, I had to start paying. I have been paying gas and utilities and things. So my resources have dwindled. I don't have any staff, so I'm back here trying to run a restaurant completely by myself with the help of my nephew at the register. But that wasn't how the program was supposed to work. But I'm definitely looking for a sponsor or someone that can help me underwrite the training program so that I don't have to try to sell food against a McDonald's and a Checkers that's close by and pay all of my expenses through there. So I'm definitely looking for resources to help me through this grueling process, especially in the wintertime. Restaurants are really slow in the wintertime. So just don't want to have a grand opening, grand closing. I've been trying to open since October. We had a little business during the holidays and it's been really slow since then. So I'll appreciate any advice you could give. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you, Chef Gerald. And Universal Concepts, I look through the chat, I don't see your name, so I'm just gonna call you UC from now on.
Greetings. I am Larnell Cox, owner and operator at Universal Concepts Beauty and Barber Consultants. We are located in the 87th and Bennett area. I found out about the, I guess, the Inglewood Chamber of Commerce through a close friend. And I'm basically just interested in getting as much knowledge and information about acquiring property and things of that nature and expanding my business. I've been in business for about 5 years now, but I've been in the business working for about 30 years, 15 professional. I've occurred about maybe 300 hours in entrepreneurial training. I am backed by some of the local businesses and entrepreneur classes that I've, I guess, kind of taken. Let's see, I am a natural hair stylist. We specialize in natural hair, chemically treated hair, as well as product evaluation, marketing and promotion, and consulting of the business. So as I said, we pretty much cover a multitude of facets. And I'm just interested in the legalities and the red tape of acquiring commercial real estate. So that's why I'm here.
Awesome, well, welcome. And now I know your name, so this is good. Now we all know your name. And Terry, you are next. Welcome.
Good morning, everybody. I am Terry Purdue, the one that puts in her name and just hits send, thinking I'm going to line 2. I'm managing broker and I'm owner of House to Home. House to Home has been in existence since 2008. I've had my real estate license for over 30 years. I decided to open my business in the great community of Inglewood. As you drive around through the south side and the west side and you look around, you say, oh my God, you know, something needs to be done. So I'm here to be a part of the solution. And my business is located at 655 West 59th Street and it's under renovation currently at this time. It should be completed like by April of this year. And I'm excited about bringing financial literacy to my community, real estate brokerage training to my community, showing people they can own a home, showing them the rights as a tenant, talking about tenants' rights. Everything I tell people starts with real estate, whether it's a place to live, a place to store your car, a place to do business, a place to manufacture something. So that's who I am. It's Terry Purdue. I'm the managing broker. And I have one other broker with me, Tyler Purdue, my
Awesome,
son.
thank you. I will
And actually I want to add too that I've also been through some of the things that we're talking about, the zoning change, going, asking, you know, for support to change the zoning on my space, going through trying to find funding. And it has been a huge barrier. Funding, you know, I've heard no so many times. Don't even bother me anymore. But I decided to continue to keep moving forward. And, you know, you have a little bit of fear, but I keep telling myself, you got to get those, you got to turn those thoughts in your head from out of fear into excitement. So I do not expect the grand opening and a grand closing, but I'm looking forward to the grand opening. And I just want to know how I can market myself and let the community know I'm here to be of service.
Awesome. Thank you, Terry. And I think you and Katerina probably should have a discussion after this. She can certainly help with any questions related to zoning and any kind of legal issues. She's pretty phenomenal on that. That is her specialty.
Terry,
been
I
through
will
a
reach
zoning-
out. I'd love that.
Yes,
Yeah. And then Terry, this is on a sidebar. If you ever needed help with the financial literacy stuff, let me know, because we actually did one last year and we can help you out there if you need any help or if you need any speakers.
absolutely. Last night I was working on my business plan, and part of it was writing it down, writing out the calendar of the events that I want to bring to the community. So definitely I'll reach out to you.
Great, great. Margie Johnson, you are next. I know you're not on video. If you want to pop on, feel free. I love the.
Everyone, good morning, and thanks that the chamber is doing this event. I am the CEO of the Beloved Community Family Wellness Center, which is a health center that is located in Inglewood at 6821 South Halsted, and we also have a dental that's 2 doors down at 6853 and South Halsted, and we also have a health center in Robbins, Illinois. And we provide health services for all life cycles. We do not only medical, but we also do behavior, mental health as well, oral health services, outreach, provide transportation services, nutritional assistance, counseling, and so forth. So we try to be full circle in terms of meeting our patients' needs, and we've been around for about 17 years now. In terms of information, I feel that this information is great to hear and to expand my knowledge about in terms of purchasing commercial property. We are located in Robbins, Illinois, and looking to relocate our Robbins site to a surrounding community, and we've found property, and we're going through the purchasing, signing the purchase agreement with the owner of the property and things of that sort, and looking at the loan and going through that process and things like that. So I think this is an opportunity to learn more about that process, and looking forward to hopefully very soon to have relocated ourselves to our new location.
Awesome. Thank you, Margie. And LaQuandra, you are next. And you guys can keep it as long as you want, but no more than 2 minutes, just because I'm sure you want the information.
Good morning. My name is LaQuandra Fair. I actually work for Grown Home Urban Farm in Inglewood. I'm the community engagement coordinator, and I'm just here to just listen and gain some knowledge. And I have business ideas, so any information that I can gain to take back to the organization and myself will be helpful. And just thanking the chamber for the invite.
Thank you. Sandy.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I am Sandy Mitchell. I am the co-owner of San Justin's Kitchen, which is a mother and son teampreneur lunch delivery and catering company in Inglewood. We I have a commercial kitchen in which I'm looking to transfer into my business name as opposed to my personal name that has been since the beginning of we started our catering company. So that's what I'm looking to get some information on how to transfer the real estate into my business name effectively and efficiently.
Great, thank you. Olympia.
Good morning, everyone. Can you see me okay?
Yeah, thank you.
So I'm a group fitness instructor. My business is Chainless Movements LLC. Currently, I do not have a place of business where I operate my group fitness classes. My business is based around utilizing equipment that will reduce the impact on knees and joints. Currently, I'm providing roller skating classes over at the local park district, but I'm particularly interested in multi-use properties, property perhaps that has rental units, that has a storefront in terms of my first purchase. And I wanted to obtain information about funding, zoning, and what that looks like. I'm interested in, I'm a Inglewood resident, so I'm interested in obtaining a property in Inglewood to continue on and expand my fitness business. I'm a startup, so I'm only like 6 months old. So I'm looking to get as much knowledge and information as I possibly can.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Janelle,
Headphones work. Can you guys hear me?
yeah, you're very soft, so we can hear you.
So Janelle, I'm the executive director of Growing Home. We're a nonprofit, and sometimes people forget it's also a business. So we do a social enterprise. So we always deal with acquiring property, dealing with zoning and permitting, and all this good stuff that can hold up a project. So I'm just interested in learning also from you guys about resources that are already in the community, so we can connect people who we interact with on a daily basis.
Awesome, thank you. And I think if I forgot anybody, let me know, but Roshana, I think you are the last person to introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. Great to see so many familiar faces. My company is Baldwin Media Group. It's a consulting firm. I've been around for 4 years, specifically public affairs and media relations. So looking to scale and get more capital and learn more about possibly real estate.
Great. All right, did I forget anybody? I think I got you all. It's hard when the boxes pop and move around. I don't know why they do that, but it's very Zoom. So I know this is an extension and we heard from you all of where you are in the process. So I'm going to jump right in. If you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand, take yourself off mute, ask the person who is speaking or somebody else. We will get through funding. I know Stephen has a hard stop at 10. So we'll jump into that and not right away. First, I'm going to start with Will and Stephen. So I guess my first question is, when is the best time to look into purchasing a property? And where should you be in your business process?
Patty, that's a great question. You know, that's a question that I get pretty often. You know, Will, when is the best time to buy? Or Will, is now a good time to buy? Or, you know, when will I know? And I always tell people the same thing. The right time to buy, the perfect time to buy for you is whenever you and your business is ready. Ideally, you have to be in a spot with your business where it just kind of seems like a natural next step. Like it's not something you want to force, right? So ideally, you know, you've been running your business for a while, ideally a few years, you're established, you have an established clientele, established customer base, your systems are in place, your process, your product revenue is steady, kind of operating like a well-oiled machine. And you're at a point where you're kind of ready to take the next step. Like you're ready to expand, maybe you're ready to scale. And ideally, you're at capacity in your current space and you just need it, right? It just makes sense. And then some, like also in the sense of, you know, if we go into a big space or if we purchase a commercial space, we'll have room to operate how we currently are, but then we even have more room to grow, if that makes sense. And then ultimately, the most important question is asking yourself if your business can afford it, right? If you do go through this purchase, what if a certain portion of your revenue halts for whatever reason, or there's a pause with a certain client? Can you sustain that? So that's ideally the steps or questions you need to ask yourself on making sure, like, okay, am me and my business ready, or is this something that I'm trying to force because of whatever X, Y reasons? And I'll let Stephen kind of handle the financial side of it.
Oh, you spoke like a banker. I like it. I think when you're, and I heard of some newer businesses on the phone, you have to stay nimble, right? And the best way to stay nimble is to be able to adjust. If once you lock and load into a building, you're there. The other thing, Will talked about capacity. You might be at capacity and not want to grow, but then it's showing you that you could start buying a building instead of renting. So you can be there where you then look into buying a building. But at the end of the day, you need to be able to afford it. And a bank is going to look at historical numbers. One thing I see quite often is people wanting to start a business and buy a building to start a business. That's like getting married before you date. That's like buying a house before you have a job. So really take the steps, stay where you can adjust your business. And I always say for small business owners, make sure the world wants your product before you build it all out, right? Make sure that you have that demand along the way. And I'm sure we'll get into some more technical um, financing of buildings along the way. But Will, that was gracefully answered. I like it.
And so I'm going to move to Katerina. From a legal standpoint, what should you know before you do purchase a property? What are some key points?
Sure. So you absolutely need to understand financing. I can't emphasize that enough. You need to understand, you need to have a relationship with a bank and perhaps interview a couple of different banks to see which one's a good fit for you. Understand what they're looking for. I think what Stephen just talked about is key. Making sure you understand how the banker's perspective, right? Like they want to see the records, they want to understand the numbers. Is this a good investment for them? Because ultimately they'll have to fund this money and really feel good about that decision. You need to understand also from the financing angle, what does the bank need? So let's say they are willing to help you fund this opportunity. You need to understand, what do they need? Okay, what's the next step? Are they going to require that I get surveys? Are they going to require additional terms? And what are those terms specifically? What are going to be the general terms of financing? And then on top of that, what is the condition of the property? If we're talking about some of these vacant and abandoned properties, my guess is there may be a history with code violations and perhaps fines that have accrued. You need to understand that. And it's not to scare you, but it's so you understand it. And then perhaps you can come up with a plan. Okay, there are fines. Is there somebody at the city we can reach out to negotiate around these fines? What do I need? What steps do I need to take in order to make this a viable property for me? And understanding the risks related to the existing conditions of the property is key. Is the property already built out and ready to serve your business, or are you going to have to put additional money into it? And how much is that going to cost? Is there a contractor or somebody that can provide you a quote so you understand the exact cost and also the timeline for that project? There's a process for the real estate purchase, and then after that for the actual build out if you need that done. So really carefully thinking through the cost and how much time is it going to take between you owning the property or doing the due diligence as part of the transaction and then actually being in the business, and can you sustain that? I think that's a really important factor. And then, conducting due diligence, I can't emphasize that enough. You want to understand everything. What are the mechanicals? What are the conditions of those mechanicals? What's going to have to be replaced? And ultimately just taking a hard line and thinking about ultimately how much it's going to cost you when you put everything on a spreadsheet and take a close look at it. And there may be some opportunity to negotiate around the price and maybe asking the seller to do some of the fix some of the mechanicals. There may be some leeway there, but if ultimately there's a lot of money that's going to have to go into it and it's not feasible for you, it may be worthwhile to look at alternatives.
Stephen?
Katerina, you brought up two awesome points that I didn't even think of. Thank you. That's why I have you here first thing in the morning. It's take your time. Don't buy without an inspection. I've seen environmental. Have you ever driven down the street and say, hey, that used to be an Arby's? Right? You might drive down the street and say that used to be a Jiffy Lube. If there's a tank under there, the bank's going to want that cleaned up. If it's not cleaned up, you're not going to get a loan. It could be a $50,000 cleanup to remove a tank, or if it was an old industrial building. And I've had people say, well, I'll just buy it through the owner. Now it's yours and you have the problem. And if that tank's leaking into the water system and it hits the school system, I mean, it could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. So do not, Katerina, awesome point on the inspection and giving yourself time. So none of these quick purchases, give time for the process as you're getting into a sales contract. I always tell my borrowers, get 90 days at least, get 30, 60 days for diligence, get 30, 60 days for financing. But your other great point, Katerina, is find out what the bank looks at. Interview the banker, because there'll be bankers that just ride you through the process because they're inexperienced bankers. They'll say, I just need A, B, and C, but ask them, what qualifies me for a loan? How long have you done this? Have you done buildings like this? Because the worst thing I can do for a small business owner is waste their time. Time is money. You guys are busy. I'd rather tell you, hey, I won't name a name because you'll think I'm denying you for a loan, but maybe now's time's not right. And here's why. Here's where we need to get to. So interviewing your banker is always huge along the way. Make sure that they know what they're doing. Otherwise, I've seen people go for weeks and months without an answer. And that's the most frustrating thing, I think, working with the bank. Because then you know what? 2 months later, Terry, you get another no, but they could have told you why right away and saved you a lot of time.
Great, thank you. I'm gonna ask, all the panelists as they list these things to maybe put them down in a checklist so that we can provide them to you as well. If not, we can go through this and write them down, but I think they're really important and I don't want you to forget or have to read constantly too. So thank you. You guys bring up great points. So I guess my next question would be, should I buy or lease? Do you have and I'm asking the parameters that somebody should know, what would make that decision easier? Is it this or is it that? And that's open to you guys. Will, Stephen?
Yeah, I could start. Yeah, I mean, that's a wonderful question. I think with anything, whether it's, residential or commercial, buying is a commitment. It's a commitment. But most importantly, it's also an investment, right? It's an investment in you, yourself, your business, and in most cases, our families too, right? A participant also mentioned a really important portion of commercial real estate, and that's mixed property, right? So, maybe you're wondering about like, what other ways can I be generating income besides purchasing a space? Mixed properties are a wonderful way to kind of complement that in terms of, you see them all throughout the city, right? There's a commercial unit on the bottom, and then above is a unit or two, which is great because that would mean rental income for you, right? But if you're not quite there yet, maybe at least makes more sense for you. For some of you, your business is in its infancy. You have like a group fitness type business where you bring in people to a space, they're there for a little bit for the class, and then they depart. Maybe in that sense, since you're in your infancy, maybe it makes more sense to lease right now, right? Like you need a space, but you're not ready to move forward with a purchase. A lease could kind of get you to the place where it's kind of a placeholder or a bridge before making that purchase. Another thing to kind of keep in mind too is that commercial leases tend to be a little bit longer than regular leases. And those could be anywhere from 3 years to 5 years to 10 years. So know that as well, when you are purchasing a property, there is a chance that you might be a commercial property. There is a chance you might be inheriting some tenants depending on where they are with their lease.
Yeah, and I would say watch your liquidity too. Remember, there's going to be a down payment on the building. You want to probably build it out along the way, and you might move into that building. You might think it's time, and then roof, electrical, code, what have you. So if all your money is your down payment, you're probably not ready yet. The other thing is, a lot of us buy and say, well, if it doesn't work out for me, I can lease it out. But if you're buying a building that's currently vacant, you know how hard it is to replace and put a new tenant in there. So I look, and if it's a mixed use, I do look at kind of liquidity. How can you survive if one of those tenants leave? Obviously, it's great to have tenants to help you pay for the building, but cash is king. So save up, get the business off and running, and then you'll know when the time is right.
Great. Now we get into the nitty gritty. I think probably stuff everybody wants to hear is about funding and everything. So now that you've decided to purchase or lease or whichever version you're going in, what information do you need to present to the bank in order to purchase that building?
I can't run away there. Banks historically we look at 2 years financials, 2 years personal returns, 2 years business returns. If you're buying a building with tenants, we'll take a look at the tenants and the leases, maybe the owner's Schedule E to see what they actually are telling the IRS the building's making, because an owner can tell you just about anything as they're selling you the building. We'll look at your current year. But I always say 2 years, 2 years, 2 years personal, 2 years business, because you are your business. The business needs to pay for you. And I look at the rents you're paying now. That's why it's also good to rent first, because those rents could go straight to a mortgage payment. I look at the profit and the amount you're able to pay yourself compared to your personal debts along the way. And it has to work. The worst thing I can do is get you a loan to buy a building and then come after you and foreclose. I want to put you in a space you can afford and afford with a little bit of cushion along the way. I would say credit score for buying a building is less important than credit score if you came to me and said I wanted a small line of credit. That said, paying your bills helps. Don't get me wrong. But I can't tell you, it's not like residential where I say minimum credit score X, debt to income Y, and Z. It's really, where's the business at? What can you afford? We could even look at some projections. However, you're not going to rely fully on them. And I'm open for questions if someone wants more detail on any of that.
This is Margie Johnson. I have a question for you. Can you tell me how long does it take for a loan to go through underwriting?
You know, Margie, it depends. I have an analyst that if I had all your information, she would get it done today and I would submit it tomorrow and get it approved. But that also is what bank you go through. If there's information, remember, underwriting is someone that works with me and puts it into a form where we can see that you can pay it back. Maybe in some larger banks, underwriting is a separate group that they send information to. So that goes to interviewing your banker and your bank. Is this the size deal they like? Is this something they did before? But don't let a banker hide behind underwriting. It's either, and some businesses have higher volumes, some businesses have slower processes than others. But you should be able, first of all, the banker should be able to tell you whether or not this will get approved if they're an experienced banker. You're not really waiting for Margie, I'd come, I said, look, this is good. I know my chief credit officer, he's going to sign next to me. We're good to go. Or these are the questions we have. Let's get some more information. Long answer to a short question. I say my underwriting's quick, but my answers are long. So maybe underwriting takes this speech plus 2 days. But we stay within 5 business days, and it doesn't matter about volume. You should know where you stand unless they're missing information, which is generally the banker's fault up front for not asking it, or something came up along the way.
Okay, thank you.
And while we have you on that topic, Stephen, can you tell us if there's any programs out there for funding? Oh, I'm sorry. Larnell, it's Larnell, right? Larnell had a question.
Yes, Larnell.
Yep.
Well, I just have a question. I know there was the talk about credit and business credit, or just basic credit, and how does it matter? I've been in the process of building my DNB, my business credit. Is that a valid line of credit that realtors or that people look at when purchasing commercial property?
I'm going to be dreadfully honest with you. No, businesses really don't have a credit report that counts until they're very, very large. DNB, there's a couple out there. I care about your credit first and foremost, because I figure how you pay is how the business will pay. So I wouldn't.
Okay.
DNB will catch it if you're paying someone that reports to DNB, but a personal credit report, everyone reports to. So I can see how you pay Comcast or your home or what have you along the way. Great question. The credit you build for a business is knowing your bankers, so they know where you're at, where you're going. I've ridden companies through 2 recessions, and I know, hey, we lost 200,000 hours this year, but I know you and I know what we're going to do to get out of it. Makes a difference.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And if you guys have any questions for Stephen while he's on, since he only has 10 minutes, feel free to interject. I mean, this is really great. I love the interaction. So, Stephen, if you
I
want
just
to
do
talk
this so I can steal the thunder. I really have all the time in the world. I just want everyone to, it's all about talking to me this morning. I'm kidding. I see another, Terry's got her hand up.
Okay, Stephen, thank you so much. You spoke briefly about business credit, what the young man just mentioned, but really you're looking at the person's personal credit. When you're working in a lot of our communities, like where we're first-time business people and all that, you've had hiccups along the way. How does an individual get bank ready to get
Right.
these types of loans?
Well,
I
now,
know you
there's,
mentioned tax returns, but there's a lot more to it than just tax returns.
there is, but the IRS is my governing body, so I have to go with what you tell them as the truth. That said, it depends on the program. You're buying a building, I don't care as much about the credit bureau. Think of it as weights. If I have tax return numbers, I don't care as much about the credit bureau. If you're in business 2 years and I have a product that I can get you 15% of revenues, like instant, we've closed in 12 minutes, it's completely reliant on your credit bureau. So there's nothing I can do about it. So think about how do we, in banking, we say mitigate. How do I mitigate maybe some slow pays? I mean, I lend to some doctors that don't like paying their bills, but I have tax returns showing they can pay me back. So it's kind of a hit or miss. Allies for Community Business. It's a great organization. I don't know if you heard about them, formerly Axion Chicago. They go credit scores down to 500, and they lend microloans to get people off and running along the way. So I know it's tough. I know a lot of times starting a business is a hit to your credit bureau, or at least it lowers it because you're building up personal debt on credit cards or what have you. But that's why I have organizations like that. And it's just be cognizant along the way, because when you come to a bank, what's your strength to tell me, or what's your proof to me that you can handle the loan? That's first, numbers are second. And then we get, as the business is more as older, I can look at balance sheet, I could see how you've handled other times. So unfortunately, there's nothing out there that I see that just says, hey, this is a loan to get off and running because your credit score is bad, except for Allies for Community Business, which we fund, we partner. And I send a lot of people over there who need a quick 25, 50, even 100. I think they go to 150,000. So
So can you explain a little bit, I don't know if, in case they don't know, Allied Communities, how does it compare to the SBA programs that are out there? And then, Lennar, I'll get back to you too.
outside of, we all know PPP and we all know EIDL, put those aside and let's think of the SBA in regular current state. It's the bank's decision, not the SBA. So don't let anyone say, hey, we're preferred lenders. I have the SBA's authority. The SBA doesn't change rates for anything in particular, not demographics, not anything along the way. What they generally do is they help me out. If I have a collateral shortfall, they help me buy a business. Some SBA lenders will use it to start a business. On the real estate side, the SBA 504, if you're using it to buy a building for your business, lets you put only 10% down, lets you fund an entire project with build out and put only 10% down of all of that. And that's a really cool program. But the SBA is, they hide behind the banks. They say, we'll do all this. You might have heard of Advantage Illinois, we'll all do this, but really then they put the bank up front to use its standard underwriting, just knowing the SBA will back me to an extent should the loan go bad.
Okay, and just, Lennar, I'm gonna, just so you guys all know, I did talk to Stephen earlier, and I think we're gonna try and get a funding, access to funding webinar going, even if we just record it and send it out to you guys as well, and that could be with Allied Communities, as well as Stephen. So Lennar, do you still have a question? I can't lower their hand, so.
He's just waving high still. And
I'm
please,
sorry,
Lena,
I
oh,
do,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yes, I do have a question. I know you had spoke earlier about a cushion, a financial cushion when buying real estate commercially. Is there a ratio based on the total amount or the purchasing price that you should have? Is there a percentage? What would you say is a great or a safe cushion to start out, knowing that you'll be occupying property that has commercial as well as mixed unit, basically commercial and
Right. I mean, first of all, you're putting 20% down generally, unless you're using the SBA and putting 10% down. So you need that cash. And then when we're looking at buildings, we assume 5% a year is maintenance of the building rents, 5% of a year is vacancy of the building rents. So if you think of what the building, I can take the whole time trying to tell you how buildings are evaluating using capitalization rates. Will could jump in using market rates, but think about what the next challenge would be at a building, right? You don't need enough money for a roof, but if you're buying a $500,000 building, you probably need $20,000 sitting around just in case, right? You first of all need 100,000 to put down. You probably need, you know, a fifth to a tenth of your down payment also on the side. But that's not an underwriting practice. Underwriting is just, we talked about scales. If you have a lot of liquidity, it makes it easier for me to approve a loan versus if every penny you used went into down payment. And there is no set rule that I can give you this exact ratio. The only exact ratio is down payment. And I want to show you have about a 20% cushion on the loan payments.
Thank you.
Great, and I know Stephen has to go in like 4 minutes, so any other questions for him before he has to disappear? And again, we'll get you more information, because I think I see where this is going, and so did he. And I think we can provide you more information on that specifically, and have a webinar that deals with that as well. So I guess I'm going to ask the next question. Now that you have your funding checklist, and you've checked off your boxes, what is the process of making an offer on a property? So I think that's just for Katerina and Will. It could be Stephen as well, before he goes in his waning moments.
You can go ahead first.
No, I think this is more up your alley, Will. So please, and thank you, everyone. Sorry that I have to run, but my information's in the chat. So please email me, reach out. I'm very responsive. I hope so. And
Yeah.
if we need to talk more, we can talk offline.
Before Stephen departs, I would say the first step, you know, in making an offer is to speak with your local awesome lender, such as Stephen. Shameless plug for him, but I would definitely, suggest that you all speak to a lender early, just to kind of give them a heads up. I mean, I'm a big proponent of, you know, it's never too early to have a game plan. So if you were, let's say you're not ready right now, but you want to at least kind of know, like, what do I need to do? How much do I need to save? There's a great question about, like, how much should I save in terms of the down payment, and then plus that in terms of closing costs, maintenance, and then just reserves in the sense if something happens with the roof or electrical or anything like that. So I always say that it's never too early to talk to a lender, and it's never too early to talk to a realtor, because we're always going to be happy to help you develop a game plan. That said, though, once you speak to your lender and just say, hey, at this point in a month, I'll be ready to start looking, the lender kind of knows and has that on the radar. At that point, you would then find the property that you'd want to submit an offer on. And then from there, you would speak to your lender, and they can go ahead and begin the process of financing and all that great stuff. So essentially, once you find the property, you can actually then speak to your lender, and then you would submit what's called a letter of intent, which is essentially you saying that I would like this property, I would like to purchase this commercial property. And that'll include, you know, your photo ID, the address of the property, and then the beginnings or the initial steps of executing that commercial contract. And then from there, you would then be beginning the process of the transaction, right? The next step after that would be delivering earnest money, which is essentially just a show of good faith that, hey, I'm serious about this process. Here's an X amount of money, as a way of showing that you are interested in the property and showing that you're serious to get the deal done. Katerina, I know at this point, the attorneys will be involved because we have what's called the attorney inspection review period. If you want to speak on that and how important that is. Yep.
Can I ask a really quick question just before Stephen goes? Can you explain
Sure.
the letter of intent really quickly in case somebody doesn't know exactly what that is?
Did you want me to explain it or Will to explain it?
Somebody.
I think that's, yeah, I think that'll be more on your realtor. What I will say is with commercial properties, there's no pre-approval like you will see with residential. The pre-approval, as Will said, is come talk to me, come talk to your banker and say, we can, like I said, the experienced banker, I can see right away, hey, Terry, you can afford this. You're going to get a yes if you go for a building of this size. And I've even put together a letter, and I got a fancy enough title that if I give you a letter, Will believes it and he runs with it and says it, but it's not the same as a residential mortgage game. It's so much easier to go get another job to pay for your house than it is to start another business. So that's why it's a little bit different when you're going for commercial properties for your business.
All right, thanks, Stephen. And then you two go for it. And bye. Thank you, Stephen.
Patty, I can chime in here. I think Will summarized it pretty well. The letter of intent is in essence just it's a generic outline of what the proposal entails, and it's to show the seller that you're serious and what you're proposing generally. There's probably going to be a lot of answers you still don't have at that point, but the most important thing is the financing. So if you've had those conversations with your banker and you feel generally confident that this is a good building for you to pursue, I think after, having some information about the building, maybe you don't have all the information, but it's if you have concerns that somebody else will snatch it and it's something that you may look back on with regret, it's okay to proceed with the letter of intent and then initiate that attorney review period. There's going to be ample opportunity for you to do your inspections and get the due diligence and have those your questions answered. And you can still walk away from the deal if it doesn't work out, but you will have an opportunity throughout the attorney review period to, first of all, draft a contract and include terms that are that you deem to be fair. And once the purchase agreement is proposed to the other side, their attorney will review with them. And a lot of times there's back and forth, right? So, you may be asking for something and they may come back and propose something else, but most of the time you can work around if you have the price in mind and generally you're in agreement, you can work around some of the details and get an agreement that's really fair to both sides. But as part of that process, your attorney will share the proposed purchase agreement. They will share any revisions with you, and it's important to review it. And it's okay and encouraged to ask questions if there are terms that you don't understand. You really want to ask the attorney, and if there's something that you know about the property or about your business that the attorney's not really thinking about, raise those questions. The commercial real estate agreement is not set in stone. There is opportunity to make it suitable and tweak the terms so they work for you. So if there's something that is that is unique to your business, it's okay to include those terms in the purchase agreement and propose them. And I always say, hey, ask for more, ask for what, be within reason. But if there's something that just doesn't seem fair to you, ask the seller to address it. And, it's okay to ask for more and to come back and negotiate. That's just part of the process. Another thing that I will note that with the attorney review period, there are deadlines that are very important, and a good attorney will let you know. They will actually let you know the dates when things are due so that you can stay on top of your transaction. And if something isn't provided by the deadline, you can have your attorney reach out to the other side or the broker reach out to the other side and make sure that you're getting all of the records or whatever you are supposed to be getting, and really staying on top of that, because sometimes what ends up happening is you don't get all of the records in time for the closing, and that's a deal break. It can be a deal breaker unless you get an extension. But missing some of those deadlines can be detrimental to the transaction. So it's really important to stay on top of it.
Great. I don't know, Will, if you have anything else to add. Otherwise, I have a question for you too.
No, you're good.
Oh, okay. So I guess in following this, and because you're in this process, if I were to purchase a product, how do I protect myself? What are some things that you can tell me what I need to protect myself in this process, knowing that I'll feel okay in the end?
I'll start, Kat, and then I'll hand it off to you. One of the most important pieces of a commercial purchase, unlike a residential transaction where the attorney inspection period only lasts for a certain amount of days in terms of when the contract is accepted, the earnest money is delivered, and then the inspection takes place. And then once everything is settled from that, the attorney inspection review period closes, and then they proceed with the rest of the deal. For commercial transactions, the attorney inspection period lasts for the entire transaction, right? So that gives you, the buyer, the flexibility to see how you feel about the process. And if you, for some reason, are not liking what you're seeing, or you're getting cold feet, or your financing comes, falls through for whatever reason, you have the ability to walk away from the deal, which is really good in the sense of you feeling good and confident in this purchase. So for me, I always say that the most important way to protect yourself is having a good attorney, having a good lender, and having a good realtor, right? And that attorney inspection review period is the process where the attorney will do the investigation on the property, right? What status is it in? What condition is the property in? Are there any clouds in the title? Kat mentioned earlier too about, maybe some properties that are run down, what violations currently are on the property, right? Things that you may have to pay for, fines, or are there ways for you to negotiate that with the seller to get those things addressed? But the fact that that period, that review lasts the entire transaction, gives you the ability to move out or to take a step back if something happens during the inspection that pops up that you don't feel good about and you're not willing to deal with. Another thing that Stephen also mentioned earlier is what's called the environmental risk assessment. So every transaction we'd highly recommend you get an inspection. But if there is some reason, like let's say you're buying a property that used to be a Jiffy Lube or a mechanic shop, there is chemicals there, there's oil there, the environmental risk assessment would then proceed in investigating, inspecting the status of the property. If it was formerly a mechanic shop and it's being turned into a bakery or turning into a group fitness facility, they have to make sure that there isn't any remnants and there isn't any health concerns with that property. The contract due dates, as Kat had mentioned, those are in place to ensure the deal is moving along, right? You both want to feel, the seller and the buyer, that the deal is moving along and both parties are operating in good faith. And then finally, the financing contingency, and that's in the sense of, the deal will only proceed if your finances are approved and you're able to fund the loan. So there's a couple of different milestones that are built in to protect you as the buyer. Kat, anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I think that was a really good summary. I think what tends to happen, what I've seen happen with small business owners is that sometimes there's a fear of knowing, and I don't know why, but I think they get really excited about the property. You can see your business there. You really wanted, you're moving along with the process, and let's say you get the records from the business owner and you want to just be done with it. You just want to move along and not know anymore. But I think having an environmental, an EPA assessment, at least a phase one, there's 2 different phases. And phase 1 is just like a very basic assessment to give you some understanding, some clarity about potential conditions of the site that could be problematic. And I also, because I have that background as in zoning and land use, I prefer that my clients don't just rely on what the seller is representing. I prefer that we get records from the city. We reach out to the inspectors. We make it known what you're intending to do. We review the zoning, because what I would hate to have happen is that you go through the process, you've figured out the financing, and then you find out the property is not zoned for what you want to do, or there is some environmental issue or something going on, and now you have to eat the cost of that. I would hate for that to happen. So as hard as it is, it's important to do that due diligence and be extra diligent and work with an attorney who is not going to be a naysayer, but who's going to be honest, direct, and say, hey, listen, we've uncovered this issue, and here's how we're going to address it. And that way you're moving along with the transaction. And at the end of it, you can know that you've done everything you can possibly do to understand what you're getting involved in, what the risks are, and ultimately end up with a property that works for you and is suitable for you and is not going to cause you a headache or jeopardize the success of your business. So I think I really appreciate working with people who are honest, direct, and aggressive, and really kind of asserting their interest as business owners. Do not be afraid to ask the tough questions, or to say, I don't know what this means. What does it mean? And expect that the people who are working with you and are part of your team are going to answer your call, are going to answer your questions. They're going to answer your emails. They're going to be there for you. And they're there to serve you.
Great, thank you, Kat. And I know since we're nearing the end of time and I've kept you guys over, I have one last question. That will be for probably Will. Can you tell me a little bit about the market, the pricing in the market? And I will also open this up to Felicia, because she is in your neighborhood and she can give you some information as well as to what's open if you haven't looked around. So Will, Felicia, you're on mute.
Just very quickly, Felicia, did you want to go?
No, hey everyone, I'm Jordan Vester, the program director here. I recently just joined the team. Felicia had to step away because she's currently on a call. I just joined the call when Patty was talking about how to get protections in deals. So Will, if you could take this, we will follow up with any information that is requested or needed. So I will assure you that.
Great, thank you. I was gonna say Felicia has a really bad cold all of a sudden.
You know, one thing that I want to also share with folks too is that commercial properties or anything that's listed or any property that has 4 or more units, right? So commercial property, it could be like just a structure that's only meant for a business. But commercial properties also apply to any building that has more than 4 units. So multi-unit buildings that have like 6, 8, 12 units, those are considered commercial properties. I did a quick search. Right now, in that criteria, there are, in Inglewood, there are 38 commercial properties currently listed for sale. In the West Loop, 39. So very comparable in quantity. The prices are a little bit different, but there are opportunities, commercial opportunities in Inglewood based on this research. But just a couple of things that I'll say really quickly about the market is that commercial properties are typically priced a little bit higher. And they typically stay on the market longer, right? When you think about clientele and you think about the city of Chicago, there are usually more people looking for homes than there are businesses looking for commercial property. It's just the nature of the beast. But the good thing about that is that, you know, it's a blessing and a curse, right? So if they're on the market longer, that gives you the buyer more leverage to maybe talk down or negotiate down that purchase price. It's a curse in the sense of, you know, your options may be limited and you may have to wait a little while before you find the right property that you want to move forward with. So your search can be limited since the listings don't come around very often. And then when you start that search, it would be, you know, similar to a residential search, and you're looking for comps in terms of, you know, what's the price per square footage, and at that point you can maneuver with your realtor to submit a competitive offer. But I wanted to mention that Englewood, there's 38 commercial properties for sale right now. West Loop, there's 39. So there is opportunities in these neighborhoods.
Larnell?
Yeah, my question is, I'm not sure who the question is directed to, but I have been made aware I bank with a few small banks, and I know a young lady who I deal with. Some people may know her. She works at CBIC, and she has kind of suggested that I look for real estate in a corridor with that is maybe distressed. And my question to you guys is there someone who will consult with me about distressed corridors for potential investment in versus lucrative corridors? So is it someone that will kind of like weigh those pros and cons to let me know what my business is or should be located based on, I guess, the demographics and trajectory of business in my field?
That's a great question. I think that's a twofolded, it's a twofolded answer. I think, in the sense of where you're at in your business, in the sense of financials and numbers, I think a commercial lender, much like Stephen, would be able to kind of give you an idea of where those numbers kind of align. And then in terms of finding the property, working with a realtor, and obviously once you start that property, working with an attorney. But I would always say is it's just a matter of what you are ready for, what you can afford. I know there are a contingent of folks who are looking to invest in certain neighborhoods because X neighborhood is going to turn in 5 years, it's going to turn in 10 years, it's on its way up. Many people feel that way about Wicker Park and Pilsen, right? Where 20 years ago, 30 years ago, those communities have changed a lot during that time. One thing I will say though, is that when you do that, just know that that change and that evolution, if you will, of that neighborhood doesn't happen overnight. So be prepared that if you were to invest in a distressed neighborhood, it may be distressed for a while before you start to see that turn, right? So just think about that. I would be happy to talk to you in more detail, but that is something that I think many people will try to like, well, I want to get in when it's good. I want to get in when it's nice and cheap. That way in X amount of years, my equity in the property will be Y. But it's a balance. It's a balance of finding the space that kind of meets all of your needs and making sure that you're willing to be okay with it being distressed for a while you're there. And there are other programs such as the Resurrection Project, which offers, I believe, mostly residential, where they offer incentives to purchase within these communities to kind of keep the community growing within itself and investing in itself.
One thing to add to that is I would suggest looking at corridors or locations that have a good anchor and also that are where you want to be. Where does it make sense for your business to be? It's not, it sounds like there's a desire to be there in the community and to serve the community. But you got to think about your business. What is the convenient for your clients? Is there anchors? Is there other businesses nearby that are going to make you more visible and set you up for success? And also with your type of a business, you may need a special use permit. So that's something to keep in mind as you look at different properties and think about the costs and the timeline as well. That process can take about 3 to 4 months, depending on how you go about it. But yeah.
I'd also like to say, and you probably already know this, check with your chambers, or check with your chamber, check with other chamber execs. They're going to be able to tell you what's around and kind of what works and what doesn't work and what's open, where you can go and things like that. I think chambers are always a great place to start as far as viability and accessibility as well as availability. So it's always a good place to start, and I'm sure Felicia can give you more information in your area. I'd also like to say, and I'm going to do not my shameless plug, because I think I really love what I do at Empower. We do offer a mentoring program for people in neighborhoods like Greater Englewood and West Side, South Side. That, I mean, it's free for you, but helping people advance into what's the next step for your business, just kind of giving you a sounding board. And it's not directed solely for your industry. It's wherever you are in the process, and you have a pool of mentors that you can actually talk to. So if you had Katerina, for example, and she needed somebody to help you financially to get you that piece, she would tap Stephen or whomever. I would highly recommend, if you guys wanted to be part of that, you are more than welcome. And again, it's free. I love doing free things, but I'm gonna put that in the chat and feel free to check it out. Give me a call, give Nick a call. We're available here for you as well. It took me forever to figure out how to raise my hand, but lowering my hand is really easy on this. So are there any more questions? Because I know I've kept you guys, we've kept you over. I hope you found it informative, but if there's no more questions, then I know Felicia's not there anymore, but if you wanted to say anything, feel free to chat. So I'm just gonna.
I'm
Thank you
sorry.
guys all. If there's any final words, feel
Yeah,
free.
well, I'm sorry. I don't have Felicia's information. I don't think she posted it in the chat. If you could, or if someone could maybe post her information.
I can put it in there.
We're adding it to the chat now.
Great, awesome.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And with that, I just want to thank you guys all for being Kat, Will, and I know Steven's not here anymore. Thank you so much. Felicia, I know you're not there. And Nick, thank you for arranging this to help us get information out. We will keep you guys posted because like I said, we will do an access to funding for you, and it could just be a webinar. You can, if you wanted to attend, we can open it up, but I think that would be helpful, especially in the line of the way that the questions went. I heard somebody. All right, with that, and Larnell, do you know how to spell her name? I'll put her whole title in. I know you can find it on that. There you go. And that's it. Thank you guys all for being here. I really appreciate it, and I hope you found everything informative. And we'll get that recording to you. And I think she did a transcript as well.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Patty.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Kat.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Take care.